Welcome to MSP Unplugged, episode number 31, Diversify Your Revenues. I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live show where we discuss different ways to run your IT business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Let me introduce my co-host today. We have Ethan Larson from Sandler Partners. Ethan, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you, Jeff?
I am doing excellent. Great to have you today. And also joining right next to him is John Ellis, also from Sandler Partners. John, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Jeff. Thanks for having us.
Good to have you guys. Be exciting story today. So I know in the beginning of the show, we were talking about a tip or story. Did you guys come up with something that you'd like to share with the audience today? Anyone, raise your hand. Go ahead.
Sweet. So I've been watching on Netflix the Michael Jordan documentary. If you guys have seen it, definitely worth your time. 10 episodes, rather lengthy, but worth it. But Michael Jordan has a quote that essentially goes along the lines of, I have failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. And I think that's a great quote because not only in business, but in life, you know, there's going to be times where we lose a client, we lose a relationship, but it's up to us how to look forward and take that and learn from it and utilize it on the next one. So that's my little tipper story.
Hey, that's excellent tip and very good. It's a reminder that we need consistently because sometimes we forget that very simple thing of just learning from your experiences, mistakes, whatever you want to call them, and keep moving forward. So that's good. John, do you have anything to add to that or any tip that you or story that you have on your own?
Just thinking through tips in general, something that I focus on is in business is just figuring out what makes you successful. What is that activity and making sure you're doing that daily. For us in sales, it's generally prospecting. So making sure that we're setting aside time either daily or weekly to make sure that's on the schedule. I don't think I can expect results without doing the activity. So if I'm expecting to have a good funnel of sales in Q3 or Q4 of this year, I need to make sure I'm doing that activity, in Q1 and Q2, and doing it regardless if you have a good day or not. Like to Ethan's point, if you're failing, sometimes activity doesn't yield immediate results, but as long as you continue to do what is going to make you successful, you'll see it down the road.
Excellent point. Yes, man, you guys have great tips today. Mine's going to seem lame to that. So, anyways. No, it's good. Yeah, good to remember. And obviously, you have to do things in order to make them happen. Yeah. They don't happen by osmosis, even though we would probably like them to. So, anyways, my tip is I just ran into an issue today where I was looking at, I was transitioning a customer to a new computer, a new laptop, and they bought a Dell Latitude refurbished. And basically, I was moving their stuff over. Well, when I copied all their information, I looked at it and there was like 110 gigabytes. Okay, no big deal. Move it over using Fab's Auto Backup, which we all know and love, and transferred all that data back over to his brand new setup computer. 110 gigabytes, no problem. Then I go to look into the files to just kind of make sure everything's matching up. So I look at the size of his personal files, documents, et cetera, and it's like 7.5 gigs. So in my head, I'm sitting there scratching my head, trying to figure out where the other 102 gigs is. Because I know I moved it over because it said transferred all 110 gigs. Long story short, I ended up, and this is where I always double check this manually because sometimes you'll get this gotcha moment and people will drag and drop a folder somewhere that they shouldn't. So anyways, in the public documents folder, under a Norton file, Norton antivirus, there was 4 different folders, and under one of them, there was 102 gigs in there. So I'm looking in there, and I'm like, oh, well, that's weird. And I open it up, and there is a file folder in there with basically 102 gigs worth of videos. And just, I don't know who it was or whatever, but there was just a bunch of stuff on there that, anyways, I ended up finding that and moved it to their documents folder. So at least, maybe it got lost years ago. I don't know. It might have been one of those things where I don't know what happened to that, but, and I'll let the customer know, hey, I found this folder, just to let you know. It looks like there's a bunch of videos, some people doing some music or something like that. Not a big deal, but hey, check it out. And I don't know if that was if you were missing that, or, if somebody had put it on there and maybe they were missing it because it was buried in a folder that it shouldn't have been in. But anyways, so that's just one of those things you got to double check yourself sometimes. All right, let's go ahead and we'll move on from there. So let's go ahead and start with Ethan today. And Ethan, I want to get a little background story on yourself, basically how you got started in what you're doing today and how you got to where you're at.
Certainly. Well, I was born at, no, just kidding. So let's see. I think, I have a unique background in the sense of when I started my college career, I was initially a pharmacology major, which is not a pharmacist, but more how the drug antibodies and, drugs interact with your body. So healthy drugs, that is. And so I started my college career, first couple of years, basically being an organic chemist. I got a job in the lab early on in school and realized very quickly that personality to job lineup was not the best. And so I kind of switched gears from there and ended up getting a business degree. Graduating college, worked in the lab for a little bit still, which I loved, right? It's still unique, but definitely was not my calling per se. So I hopped around a few, sales jobs and ultimately ended up at Sandler about 2.5 years ago now, and have been here ever since, obviously. And I love it because obviously technology and IT is a little bit more interesting than just looking at cells in a bioreactor all day. And so, I've been here, loving it, building relationships with IT consultants, VARs, MSPs, etc. And here we are, August 16th, 2020.
And that is so interesting because you would look at both of those career choices as two way different career choices. In other words, one's in a lab kind of looking at things. It's kind of cool, cutting edge, all that kind of stuff. And the other is dealing with people like us. So I'm not sure.
With great people like you guys.
We'll go with that on a good day. No, I'm just kidding. But no, that's an interesting background and an interesting start to. And I can tell with your personality and stuff. When you were talking about, I got started my college career, I'm like, that was what, last year? Just looking at your age.
I went pretty much.
So, but no, that's great. And it's nice to get into something where you have a passion for it. Obviously, it sounds like you had a passion for both, but maybe you have a little more passion for the sales side of things. And that's kind of what led you down that path. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
Great origin story. All right, John, you're up. Where did you come from and how'd you get here?
Yeah, so similar. I wasn't planning on necessarily getting into sales. My college degree was in religious studies. Had no idea what I wanted to do. But straight out of college, I was engaged, and my wife, or my fiance at the time, was still going to be working. So it was on me to put, the bread on the table, make sure I was making the bacon. So I started looking at sales jobs. And the one I ended up going with was for Time Warner Cable Business Class, which is now Spectrum. So it was kind of my foot into the industry, into telecommunications. I worked as an outside sales rep for them for 1.5 years, basically. And through that process and making relationships, I started figuring out what the channel side of it was. And I got introduced to Sandler Partners. So I went over there. I've been at Sandler now, I think it's been about 5 years. And it's been awesome. I absolutely love it because it's relational. It's building relationships with our MSPs, IT consultants, helping their businesses grow. And then the big difference that I love is being able to not just sell one provider, but be more of like a trusted advisor of being able to sell all the providers and doing that nationwide. So it's been awesome. And that's where I'm at now.
Very cool. And John, I'm going to tell you, don't feel bad. I'm 50 years old and I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, right. Still figuring it out.
Still figuring it out. And I don't know that will ever change. But, hey, keeps life exciting and keeps me somewhat young, I guess. So, no, that's a great story. And it's interesting how different paths in your life will lead you. And I know a lot of people will take a college path and they get kind of stuck into whatever their studies are and maybe not, want to break out of that. But when you look at the different things you can do out there, and if you have a personality for sales, I mean, coming from the IT business, I would say the majority of us probably, and I would say this, maybe some people would be mad, doesn't really matter, but we suck at sales. We really do. We're horrible because we just, at the end of the day, most of us just want to fix the problem. And so that's kind of where a partner like Sandler Partners comes in as a trusted advisor, like you said earlier, to help us to be able to do the things that we need to do and maybe that we aren't really good at, and kind of take that out of the equation, the time and effort of doing, looking at all the different options out there. Because let's face it, there's always new options constantly barraging us with, and we get this, well, I don't know what I want to do. I'm not really sure. So it's great to have you guys kind of talk about those types of things today. So let's go ahead and get into our main topic. And one of the things is, Ethan, I'll throw this over to you. Explain to us what Sandler Partners is and what does it do for the IT business owner, the VAR, the MSP and IT consultants.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, Sandler Partners is a master agent, and a master agent, to those who are unfamiliar with that term, is really a broker who holds existing relationships with various ISPs, voice, UCaaS, cloud, colo providers, and we enable the MSP community to not only sell those services to end users, but at the same time also capture a residual revenue stream on those teleco services. And so the value add is really twofold. One, it's being a single point of contact, like John mentioned earlier, for a nationwide slew of providers when it comes to internet and voice. And then two, it's adding a recurring revenue stream to the MSP, IT consultant, VCIO bottom line. And I think we all know that the bread and butter of MSP work is that recurring revenue stream, right? Unless you're a break fix, which is nothing wrong with that. But, usually they transition from a break fix to an MSP, and, capturing additional revenue and additional wallet share with clients is crucial. And since you as an MSP are there on the ground floor when clients are, needing to upgrade, needing to add a location, move offices, etc., we can come in and help essentially, be a single point of contact for all those telecom options.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about in this show is, even though it's named MSP Unplugged, I make fun of acronyms a lot. I think they're stupid, but that's just me. And so, plus MSP Unplugged was available as a .com, so that's why we bought it. But with that being said, I heard everything except colo. What is a colo?
Co-location, like if someone wants to put servers in a carrier's data center.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was a new one on me, because I'm like, I don't think I've heard that before.
I should have clarified co-location. So I apologize. Welcome to the IT industry.
Exactly. Hey, we're full of acronyms and full of a lot of things that, yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyways, no, that's good. So it sounds like, yeah, you guys are the, and I like how you put it, as a broker. Obviously you've done all the research, you have all the companies, you already know them and you work with them. And so you can fit those companies to said MSPs, IT consultants or whatever, in helping their end users get whatever services they need. So, because, obviously, and let's just be honest, any of us can go to a website, and there are websites I particularly go to on a regular basis, IT related, and I have no earthly idea what in the world they're talking about. There's software companies, I go to their website and I have no earthly idea what they're talking about. I don't get, it's like, okay, can we simplify this process a little bit? Because I'm not really sure in understanding what you do. And so this seems like a good situation where you guys can actually bring that expertise that you've already figured out what these companies do and what they have available and what's going to fit best inside our businesses. So that's really good.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, obviously the name of this show was, diversifying your revenues. And Ethan, you talked about, that recurring revenue. And MSPs, for some reason, years ago, think they made recurring revenue up, but it's been around since the dawn of time. They didn't make it up. It's been around forever, way before MSPs existed. Anyways, so but recurring revenue is a great way, especially in today's day and age, of making sure that you have that money constantly coming in and making sure that you know kind of what your expenses are, you know how much money you're making, and it makes supporting your end customer a lot easier than the customer if you're just doing a solid break fix where something is broken and somebody needs something fixed and you're constantly running around putting out the fires. I look at the MSP plan or the recurring revenue as a way to basically prevent bad things from happening as best as possible, or at least have some things in place where you can recover very quickly. So that's the benefit of the recurring revenue. But obviously, there are recurring revenues inside of these other companies that maybe we're not even aware of. So can you guys explain some of those?
Certainly, yeah. So like our partners, if they're not working with us, they're often leaving money on the table. So obviously as an MSP, you're managing, your customer and users network, which typically is going to go hand in hand with the internet circuit. So for example, your Spectrums, your AT&T, your Verizon, your Comcast circuits of the world, through us, you could be selling those services and making monthly recurring commissions, a percentage of what the customer's billing on those circuits. So we can help you take control of kind of that sales process and then make sure that you are getting paid on it. And then additionally, oftentimes we can help our partners with auditing, saving the customer's money, which can open up room in the budget for potential other projects that maybe the MSP wants to do with infrastructure or something like that.
Very good. That sounds good. And it sounds like you guys make it easy doing that. So now, obviously, money is always an issue when it comes to the end user, right? Everybody wants it for the cheapest price and this and that and the other. But it sounds like because you guys don't just work through one company, you have many different companies you can work with. Obviously, there's different, there's different prices that companies will have that might fit one customer over another, and you guys can point them in the right direction. Is that correct?
Yeah. So our goal ultimately is to have the heart of a teacher over the heart of a salesman. So it's making sure the customer, like you were saying, it's sometimes hard to understand. Some end users don't understand the language of internet or phone and things like that. So it's one, being the translator and putting it in layman's terms so that they understand what they're buying, but then also making sure like maybe the internet solution is best from one provider and the voice solution is best from another provider. And so we can come and kind of be the captain on and bringing in both of those to tie those together. And yeah, definitely, like we'll put together a spreadsheet for our MSPs to provide to the customers. That's going to break down, the carriers, the bandwidths, and the speeds and prices, so that we can make sure we get the best solution for the customer based on their needs, and then also making sure that they're getting the best possible pricing.
That's good, because I think a lot of times when you call XYZ company, they're going to, if they have everything, every type of service available, they're going to want to sell it to you all and go, hey, we're the best thing since sliced bread. Buy it now, and it's going to save you time and money and whatever other. You can win a trip. I don't know what all the time. So that's definitely a benefit to have. And so, what are some of the other things that? What are the other benefits of working with you guys that the MSPs and the IT consultants out there can get from you?
I think a big thing, like John alluded to earlier, being the heart of a teacher to kind of help the MSP, right? We can really come in as, someone who's part of your guys' sales force, if you will, but without being on the payroll. And we can take a look at options if you've got a customer who's, hey, I saw this ad on YouTube the other day for XYZ company. What does that mean, right? And that really kickstarts a conversation and sparks a conversation with you to say, hey, actually, if we've got a partner, who could help us out here. And so we can come along and say, between the multiple providers that could be available, right? Here are the benefits and negatives of each one. We're vendor agnostic, so we're not married to any one provider, unlike, if you work directly with a Comcast or Spectrum or AT&T, right? Like you said, they're only going to sell those services. And we can speak to the benefits of them, of course. But I think just kind of cutting through the all that, language and acronyms that end users might not be familiar with. And of course, MSPs understand it, but at the same time, maybe, the end user needs to see the value of maybe something like a fiber circuit versus something else a little bit cheaper, right? And so us being able to come in and kind of, cut directly through that sales process of the end user, having to go around to each provider and having a conversation, we can come in, be the quarterback, captain, if you will, right? And help, speak to not only sourcing the available options, quoting them, getting the orders placed, and then helping, you guys be there through and through that whole process. So that way it deepens the relationship ultimately with the end user, which is our biggest goal here, as an MSP or with our MSPs, is to help you guys look like heroes. So that's definitely the biggest value add, I would say.
That's good, because when you talk about the heart of a teacher, that is an excellent way to put it. Because I'll tell you, I just met you guys, today. I mean, we've had some email conversations and stuff, but you're both very personable. You're somewhat outgoing as far as being able to articulate what you want to talk about and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you don't sound just like just a salesperson. And I think a lot of times when people think of salespeople, they think of the used car salesman as probably the worst offender of all time. Not that all used car salesmen are bad, or women, but back in the day, a vast majority would do some not very nice practices to get you into a car, basically because they were trying to make a living. And it sounds like from your guys' standpoint that you're in this teaching mode, and you're also in this mode of, hey, we want to find the best fit for you, which is exactly what any type of broker and any type of business does. So it's a win-win situation for everybody all around. And it takes some of the having to look up the knowledge, like I said before, from the MSPs and the IT consultants to go, hey, I don't have to worry about this. I'm going to throw it. Can you guys find me the best deal for the services and stuff we need? So, and obviously we talked about things of like internet. Obviously, internet is the backbone of getting online, and everybody's got to have at least that. I think maybe there's some businesses that still operate on pen and paper, rock and chisel. I don't know. But for the most part, I think people are out there and they're connected. So we talked about those, and obviously we've got, different options like, voice over IP and, voice over internet protocol. And so what we affectionately know as VoIP, which again, dumb acronym. But so from this standpoint, though, there's a lot of services that are out there as far as telephones. And then you guys also deal in cloud services. So what are some of the services that you deal with from that aspect?
Sure. So yeah, you had mentioned VoIP, right? So I talked about internet. We do voice services, whether it's traditional, like your PRI, SIP trunks, analog lines. If you have a customer that has a phone system on site, can definitely get you the dial tone for that. And then for hosted voice, we have a slew of providers that do that. All the big retail names you guys have probably heard of, like your Ring Central, Vonage, Nextiva, Jive, Mitels of the world. So it can get you access to those guys. And then for cloud services, we have disaster recovery, virtual desktops, direct connects if you need managed cloud, AWS, things like that. We also have two engineers in-house with Sandler that are specific to cloud services. So we have a ton of resources if those opportunities come up to basically do discovery with the partner or the customer and make sure that we're connecting the dots. Our jobs essentially as channel managers is to be generalists, to know a little bit about everything, and then understanding the needs or the pain points of the customers, and then essentially just connecting the dots to bring in the right resources of each carrier. And that's the cool thing too, is each carrier supports us with channel resources of channel managers, engineers, et cetera, that will come in into opportunities to also help sell it with us.
Very good. And so obviously, if you guys are working with a bunch of different partners when it comes to a lot of these, when you're looking at these, as far as knowing what's best out there for the end user and stuff like that, what's the process that you go through? Like if somebody gives you a call and says, hey, I'm interested in your service, I want to get hooked up with you guys, what's kind of walk me through the process of what happens so that person can get from where they're at, where they have no knowledge, to, hey, I've got somebody that's supporting me on a regular basis.
Do you mean in regards to the end user or like the MSP?
Like the MSP IT consultants, they're calling you, they want to use your services. Walk me through the process of what kind of happens as far as, because obviously people go into this and they go, okay, I know I need internet, and that's probably a good place to start, but maybe there's other things that they don't know that they need. And that's obviously, if you guys are the experts in that arena, and it sounds like pretty much a lot of things cloud, right? That you're going to be able to go, hey, did you think about this? Did you, do you have that? So I'm just curious of what the process is as far as getting started.
I mean, in terms of getting an MSP on board, we have a partner agreement that we would give to them. One of the cool things about Sandler partners in terms of our competition to other master agencies is that we're flexible in our support system. So we typically have a tiered commission structure depending on how the MSP wants to be supported, because not every MSP is the same in how they want us to work with them or their customers. Some are a lot more protective. They don't want us to engage directly, and some don't want to deal with the internet, phone, or cloud at all. So they'll just give it to us. So the relationship from each MSP is unique, and we go through that on the onboarding process. So we essentially will do, if the MSP wants to drive the car themselves, or they want the keys to the castle, they'll have access to go and do their own quoting. We have a partner portal that they get access to that gives all the carrier contacts and lists how to quote them. So they could go out if they essentially just wanted to use Sandler's agreements to be able to sell the carriers, or there's options if they don't want to be involved and they essentially just kind of want to act as a referral partner. They can just refer us to the customer and we can do everything for them, obviously keeping transparency to the communication with them. And then there's a couple of tiers in between that as well, if they want us to sell it with them or if they want us to be their back office support. So it looks different for sure. And then in terms of how we qualify each opportunity, it's just on an individual basis on what they're looking for. And again, if we're being able to interact with the end user, that the partner is letting us do that on that opportunity, then we'll reach out to them. We'll get on a call with them, typically with a discovery call, get our sales engineer on there and go through, exactly what they're looking for, what their pain points are. Are they just looking to save money? Are they looking to increase their bandwidth? Or are they is their phone system dead and they need to go hosted? What in particular they need. And then based on that, we'll go and again, it's also based on geography, because some carriers are only serviceable in certain areas. So that will limit what's available. And then we'll just take that and loop in the resources of each carrier.
Very cool. So yeah, there's a lot to dive into, obviously, when it comes to that kind of stuff, because there's a lot of things that people maybe are not really thinking about in terms of all those types of things. And again, they would have to do all the research to try to figure a lot of that stuff out. So it sounds like you guys are right there, making sure that, hey, we're gonna point you in the right direction. And man, that's a lot of options to have have different service levels that you can, kind of work it yourself, work with you guys, kind of a hybrid approach. And you're right. A lot of businesses it's like, hey, it's all or nothing. And it doesn't sound like that's what you guys do there. So.
Yeah. And we do it on a deal by deal basis. So if a partner starts at, not wanting to do much and just wants to refer it, but then on certain deals, as they get more comfortable with it, they want to do more and more, they can move up and down as they want. And we also have a ton of tools in our portal, as I mentioned earlier. We also have like a new tool we released where you could type in an address and it will show you what internet providers are in the area, which ones are in the building and whatnot. So there's a lot of ways to kind of narrow it down fairly quickly. And we also have like a solutions finder in our portal. So if a partner wanted to say, hey, I want to sell Office 365 or I want to sell backup as a service, they can basically filter out those products and it will list all the carriers in our portal who can do those. So a lot of different ways to kind of nail it down. If they want support, if they want us to be doing the quoting for them, it's literally as simply as sending an email to their channel manager with the company name and the address and saying, hey, John, hey, Ethan, I got this opportunity. This is what I'm looking for. And we'll get started typically from there. If we need to do any discovery with the partner beforehand, we'll jump on a call with them.
Wow, that's great. I don't think you could ask for any better service than that. And I've said this often. I think that in today's day and age, I really think there's probably a certain amount of service that has gone by the wayside, and it's good to see. It's like a fresh of breath air that companies like your guys are coming back in and actually taking that service level up to the next level. And that's something that I think at the end of the day, I think those are the businesses that actually win out overall, because again, service is king as far as I'm concerned. It's always been that way, but there's probably in years past we've let some of that stuff slip. And it's a good reminder to MSPs and IT consultants out there that, basically, service, if you got the service, that's gonna win you 9 times out of 10. So
100%.
It's great to see that.
Yeah.
And so what are so obviously there's other things that we can cover too. What are some of the other things that maybe we haven't covered so far that you guys want to talk about today, as far as Sandler Partners and what they do?
Yeah, and I think the big thing, like we kind of just touched on, is the flexibility of the support. That's really one of the biggest differentiators between us and other master agents. Because again, at the end of the day, we're here to enhance a relationship with the MSP, who's ultimately trying to enhance the relationship with the end user, right? So it kind of goes hand in hand. And so, the biggest value add that we're bringing on that front is really, coming in alongside the MSP, not as a competitor, but to say, hey, if your client is looking for this, or if they've brought up the conversation with you before and you didn't have a solution, whether it's internet, phone, etc., we can really help kind of cut through the middle of that, and not only save you time, because it's really no sweat off your guys' back to give us a call and say, hey, anything that can fit here at this location, like they've been really slow with their internet, etc., right? And we can try to source what's out there. But then two, in turn, if there is a solution in our portfolio with the provider of ours, then boom, the MSP looks like the hero, because now all of a sudden you're coming in with this solution that's going to ultimately benefit and make the business owner's life easier. So really, like John said, having the heart of the teacher, coming alongside and knowing, and having our pulse on the trigger, or our finger on the trigger for all these providers, right? Almost like a stockbroker. We see how all of these providers are performing, right? Yearly, monthly, quarterly. And we can see which ones are, really taking initiative and enabling MSPs within the channel to deliver services with more fluidity and with ease. And so, really coming alongside and really saying, hey, let us help take care of everything telecom on your end. And, and you can also capture revenue on it on the back end, right? And that's really, I think, the big thing.
Bonus. So side question, where did the term master agent come from? Because every time you guys say that, it just makes me smile. I don't know why.
That's a great question.
Honestly, I don't even know. They call the partners sub agents. So I'm assuming that's why we're the master agent, because the sub agent rolls up to whoever the master agent is that has all the agreements. But yeah, it sounds pretty cool, right?
It does. It's just a cool terminology. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so now obviously things in the landscape are constantly changing out there with providers and things like that. So how do you guys keep up with what's going on out there, as far as, making sure that, obviously there's been certain providers that have been around forever and they're probably not going away, but I would imagine that there's some vendors that probably come and go a little bit, and maybe you've got to switch services along the way. So what does that look like?
That's a good question. I mean, in terms of just paying attention to how well carriers are doing financially, like that's something to look at. We've had carriers that have gone through bankruptcy recently, a few big names. And so, letting our partners know that that's kind of a question mark if you want to be selling those partners during that time in terms of commissions long-term. Luckily, we made it out recently there was 2 or 3 big ones. We made it out with our commissions intact after bankruptcy. So it was awesome. But just kind of, as we're quoting these services, giving some of that intel that they may or may not be aware of, just as like a heads up. Sometimes, especially like with mergers, things can get messy for a while, like acquisitions. So just letting know, like, hey, time frame for delivery might be longer right now because, they just let go of a bunch of people through this acquisition and things like that. But on average, like statistically, what we see, most customers keep their internet circuits on average for about 5 years. So there's not a ton of churn and burn, especially if you get the customer, if you're not upselling them and you're giving them like the best option, they're typically going to stick with that for at least 5 years on average.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, 5 years. That's that is a long time for a lot of those. So it's yeah, we won't talk about mergers, Sprint, T-Mobile. We won't talk about how my service went from, pure bliss in my household to utter crap overnight, but whatever, stuff like that happens. It's one of those things, and you can't really keep on top of everything that's going on out there. Like I said, there's new companies coming along all the time, and there's other companies that, are leaving. And like you said, there's a lot of people who, at the end of the day, there's fewer and fewer companies as they seem to be merging together, which maybe at the end of the day will actually be a good thing overall, because if you can pull all the resources from several different pools, it'll make it a little bit better in the long run. That's the theory anyways. And I would say that probably holds true. To be honest with you, I miss the old Ma Bell days. I don't know. You guys might not know who Ma Bell is, but anyways, might be a little bit too young for that. But
are we talking about AT&T?
No. Anyways, so yeah, there was a lot of I remember back in the day when everything would split up and go to these smaller companies, and they were going to save you all kinds of money, and it became service was not as good as it used to be. I actually some days I do miss the copper wire days of telephone services. And for those that don't know, Google it. You'll understand what I'm talking about. But so when you look at a lot of that stuff, it's hard to follow exactly what's going on there all the time because it's happening so fast, and it's hard to keep up with.
Yeah,
totally,
constantly.
And one thing too, I think even taking it outside of just telecom, I think IT services in general, right, or IT infrastructure changes rapidly, and I don't think there's a single MSP company or IT consultant out there who can, learn and master every single aspect of the IT, industry. And so really, having providers in your arrow of quivers, if you will, right, for your MSP portfolio of offering, and kind of enabling Sandler to be there, as an arrow for telecom, really kind of alleviates the pain point of either, trying to become a master yourself in it, right, and memorize every single aspect of teleco, but instead, saying, hey, we've got the trusted resources, we've got the carriers, we've got the expertise to help out on that front. Let us help take that burden off your back and come alongside you, right, and help offer those services to the end user. I think those are the MSPs that really shine. Is they don't feel like they have to know everything in the world, but they lean on the resources that they can trust, and that's really where we want to come along and help out.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that we talk about too, is that you can be a jack of all trades, master of none. And a lot of people, unfortunately, try to do that. And there's not enough time in the day for you to do that stuff. So it's great to have companies out there that you can partner with that are going to be experts in their particular arenas, because we absolutely cannot be experts in everything that we do. I don't know anybody like that. That's not going to, and even if there are, they will burn out in a short period of time and not make it. So, yeah, it's definitely worth looking at for sure. Okay, so let's go ahead and hold your thought for a second, and I'm going to come back to you guys here in a quick second. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll get back into the topic. So anything that you can think of that we haven't covered that we need to cover as far as information-wise, we'll go ahead and go into that in a moment. If you would like to support this show, I encourage you to go over to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged. And if you become a patron, patron of the arts, I guess this is art of sorts, whatever you want it to be, education, whatever. So if you want to become a Patreon supporter, what that will get you is into our secret Facebook group over on Facebook. I know it's love it or hate it. Some people love it, some people hate it, but unfortunately, that's where most people are at. So anyways, we have a niche group over there where people are actually nice. They answer your questions and without making you feel stupid. So no matter how brand new you are into being an IT consultant, MSP, etc., we're there to kind of help with the questions. And we all run into things all the time that we don't have maybe an answer for. But the more people you get together inside of a room, the more people you have to be able to answer some of those questions. And so far over the last couple of years, everybody has been super nice in answering questions and not making people feel stupid, because if you do, we kind of kick you out real quick. I got Paco is my heavy, and he'll just go in there and delete, and he'll boot you out of the group. Fortunately, we haven't had to do that yet. So anyways, I want to thank all of our other Patreon supporters that continuously support us. Without you, there would be no show, because there's not many bills, but there's some bills that it costs to put this thing together. Not to mention time and effort. So we definitely appreciate those that appreciate us by showing us those greenbacks, or De Niro's, or whatever you want to call them. So anyways, with that being said, just go over to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged, and we'll get you hooked up into the secret Facebook group. All the instructions are there. It's about $1 a show. I don't know if I mentioned that before. $4 or $5 a month. We do 4 to 5 shows depending on the particular month, but that's it. Cheaper than a Starbucks coffee, unless you're just drinking a regular coffee with cream and sugar. Then maybe that's a little cheaper. I'm not sure. So anyways, all right. So going back to our conversation with John and Ethan. So what things have we not talked about yet that you guys can provide the IT consultant MSPs out there?
One thing we didn't talk about was our commissions integrity program, which is something that separates us from our competition. A lot of the other masters will talk about having some sort of commission auditing, but don't really follow through with that. But we have to date recovered over $7 million in missing partner commissions. So we have a team that's dedicated specifically to that, proactively monitoring and opening up tickets. So we're tracking SPIF and residual payments, and if we're not receiving them, we're following up with the carrier. So that's something really cool, because we're putting money and making sure we're keeping our carriers honest. It's not that they're trying to be mischievous, but ISPs and telecom providers, as we all know, can suck at times or can make mistakes. So I think that's one thing that's pretty huge. To recover $7 million for partners is awesome.
That's awesome. Now I have to go back though. What is a SPIF?
Sorry, another acronym. So our base agreements with carriers typically mean that we're going to get paid a recurring commission, or what we call a residual, and that's a monthly percentage that our partners will get paid. A SPIF is like a one-time payment that carriers will run as incentives, maybe for a month or for a quarter, right? So if you're selling, let's just say Ring Central, and don't quote me on this because I don't know what their actual current SPIF is, but sometimes they'll do like a 3x, right? So if you sell a deal, they'll pay us a 3 times whatever the monthly cost on the deal is. They'll pay us 3 times that in a SPIF that the partner will get. So SPIF is one-time payout bonus, and then residual is the base recurring commissions that we get.
That was a great explanation, because I literally did not know, and I just learned something new today. See, folks, you can always learn something new. So very good. That was probably I've heard how those work before, but that was probably the simplest, most understandable explanation of that I have ever heard in my entire life, and I am not kidding you.
Thank you. Yeah. So SPIFs are good. That's the big SPIFs. Sorry to cut you off there. We're also fully transparent. So one thing we didn't talk about, you had asked how we onboard our partners, right? We send them a partner agreement. There's no quota or revenue commitments in working with Sandler partners, so we make it extremely easy. We're not going to say, hey, you owe us X amount of revenue a year or X amount of deals per year. It's really, we're just, as Ethan talked about earlier, wanting to be an arrow in your quiver or being a part of your team for when those opportunities come up, right? We have partners, obviously we want them to be as active with us as possible, but really the goal here is for the MSP to think of us when, internet comes across their mind, or phone comes across their mind, or cloud, or whatever that is, whether that's once a year or once a week. But yeah, there's no quota or commitment, and we're fully transparent. So I've mentioned our partner portal a few times. In there, we list what we call our commission rate sheet. And so that will list every single carrier and the percentages that they pay us, so that you guys can see totally upfront. There's no questions.
Whoops. I got excited there for a minute. I'm like, money.
Yeah, right. So just being fully transparent to everybody, I think that's really important.
That's good. Yeah, transparency is good, because a lot of times you don't want your company's hiding all that from you. You want to know what's going on out there. And it's great that you guys have that actually inside your partner portal. So that's good. Because again, that probably alleviates a lot of questions. Instead of having to ask for every little thing, you can kind of see what's out there if you're, looking at that information. So that's good. Now, as far as, so are all the commissions on a recurring basis? I know we talked about spiffs as one-time deals, or are there different type of deals out there as far as how people can get paid?
The majority of our partner agreements are recurring. I would say probably 95% of them, and close to it. There are a few carriers that do pay a one-time. It's a flat one-time upfront instead of doing a recurring commission, and that's listed in our commission rate sheet. So the majority is recurring revenue. We do separately from that, we have what's called a Pay Me Now program that certain partners can take advantage of. It's individual case basis, where if they had a book of business that's flowing through Sandler Partners and they wanted to have it bought out, we can look at it again, ICB, looking at the carrier, the monthly recurring, what the commissions are, and Sandler can make a one-time offer. And we've had partners use that like in lieu of business loans and things like that. Obviously, you give up the residual when you do that, so it's not a good long-term play. But if you needed the cash, that's a program that we do offer.
It's nice to have options. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's very good. All right. Is there anything else, Ethan, that we haven't talked about as far as Sandler Partners? Anything that you want to bring up at this time that you can think of?
We've talked about the commissions aspect of it, which is obviously a huge portion because there's money on the table there. There's wallet share of the customer to also grab hold of through that front. But I think, one thing we want to alleviate too is, closing the door or closing the windows to competitors, because there are other MSPs out there vying for potentially your business, right? And maybe they have a relationship with the telecom broker who they can offer services. And so one thing that we want to do is, close those windows, lock those doors when it comes to that. So not only helping you find revenue on the telco side, but also helping you, protect your existing customer base. It sounds silly, but I have, a lot of partners who ask me all the time, and they're always very apologetic because they're like, hey, I just need a small backup circuit quote here. It's a customer I've been trying to land for a little bit. I know they have some network issues, and, it would just be great if when they call me up the next time they have an issue and I have a solution for them, maybe that'll give me a leg up or give me a reason for to have another, on-site meeting. And the scary part is if that's one of your potentially existing MSP customers, right? You could be losing essentially a customer if it's something as easy as a tiny little backup circuit or a new phone system, maybe that's having issues or whatever it could be. And so, helping, close those windows, lock those doors, and really have a holistic MSP offering to end users is crucial. And the other thing too, which I don't think we've mentioned yet, if one of those avenues is already in your offering of MSP services, maybe you are white labeling a VoIP service today, or you've got a local VoIP guy that you're offering services or girl to, right? And you want to keep that relationship because you just like them, right? By all means, we are not going to cross-sell and circumvent you on any, individual deal because we prefer to have the aggregate of the relationship, right? We'd rather have a relationship with the MSP for 10, 15 plus years and help out with all those other opportunities than circumvent you and shoot ourselves in the foot on one little opportunity. And so, we'll keep you guys abreast if we're talking to a customer and they say, hey, what do you know about VoIP or hosted services? And, we mention that to you and you say, oh, hey, I want to sell them my services. By all means, we're going to walk away from that because we care more about the relationship with the MSP because they're technically, in a sense, our customers, right? So does that make sense a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, I think, again, that goes to the transparency and just being real out there and understanding how relationships and things work. Again, not a, cruddy salesy pitch, just kind of a, hey, we're actually human beings and we're actually here to help you. And if more businesses would do that, by golly, this would be a great world.
Amen.
I just said by golly. Oh my God, I'm old. Anyways, so all right, John, anything you want to add to that, or anything that you think we haven't covered that we need to cover?
I think we touched on a lot of stuff. To go off Ethan's point, though, I think he nailed it. If you're an MSP and you're not doing something today, you should be, because you're leaving money on the table. You're leaving your door open for your competition to come in, and you could potentially lose customers that way. And it can also be a foot in to getting new customers, right? Like Ethan mentioned. So I have seen plenty of times where partners come to me and said, this is a prospect, this isn't a customer, but we quote it, and then we get the ISP done, and then that turns into an actual managed contract for the MSP because of the first project that went in. So yeah, definitely, if you're not doing anything, or even if you are, evaluate, how's it working for you? We would love to have a conversation about supporting you. As you mentioned earlier, Jeff, it's all about response. And that's really mine and Ethan's job, is just to answer our phones and to answer our emails and to do it quickly.
Nice.
We're pretty good at that. So
those are two very important things that people need to learn to do a little bit better. But yes, that's excellent.
That's why we do well, because we do it well.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys coming out today and sharing with us. And we learned a lot of good things and how the business operates, and definitely something people should check out. And I'm sure that there's a place that they could go to check that out. And where would that be?
So yeah, you can, and hopefully Jeff will link this in the description. Our sandlerpartners.com is our website. If you do /E as in Ethan, and then my last name, Larson, LARSON, that'll go directly to kind of that landing page where you can fill out some info, and that'll give me, a little notification to reach out to you. So obviously, like John said, we'd love to have a conversation, even if you have existing relationships today with maybe a direct provider or another master agent. But yeah, my name is Ethan Larson again, and hopefully Jeff will be able to link that info in the description, or you can give me a call at 714-733-3061 as well.
Very good. And all that information will definitely be in the show notes.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And John, anything to add? How can people contact you, or, ask you some questions too?
Yeah, you can reach me at same thing. It's sandlerpartners.com, but my first initial last name, which is /J Ellis. But yeah, we're totally looking to support you guys. Me and Ethan are counterparts, so we're basically a team. We love supporting our MSPs, and we would love to support you guys as well. We really appreciate you having us on, Jeff.
Well, good to have you. And you guys are great sports and laughed at my dumb jokes. So that was good.
They were not dumb.
You guys are definitely, just because of that, you guys are welcome back anytime you want to talk about whatever.
Yeah, I needed those. I'm expecting my first, so I need some good dad jokes.
Oh, there you go.
Have any for me?
Yeah, my kids always tell me, they're like, do you have to, every single time we say something, you have to throw a dad joke out there? I'm like, I can't help it. It's what we do.
You're a dad. You got to do it.
Well, thank you so much, guys, and appreciate you coming out. Like I said, and hopefully we'll see you, maybe down the road. And I know we've got we had a live event we're going to have this year, and that got canceled because of all things COVID that's going on this year. So hopefully next year we can get you guys involved with something like that, and get you out to meet people face to face again. Hopefully we'll get back to that point where we can actually do things without masks. I'm just saying.
One day.
Maybe a couple years down the road. I don't know. I'm hoping next year, but we'll see what goes on. So anyways.
Certainly.
All right. Come join us every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. I won't say standard or daylight savings, Paco, because we'll just call it Eastern. So you figure out what 6 months of the year it is. All right. Watch live, and you can hang out in the chat room over on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and your favorite podcasting app to never miss an episode. It'll let you know. Subscribe. It's free. And we're here pretty much every week. I want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.